Hello, everybody. Excited Utterance here, and my name's Hella. I missed you guys. How are you? How are you? It's nice to see you all. Yeah, I'm a little bit late, Barton Bella. Not very late, only a teensy little bit. Only a little bit. It's so good to see you. Guilty. A little late. Guilty. Lisa Foltersack, it's good to see you. Welcome. Snibbles. Hello, Snibbles. It's always good to have you, Snibbles. Little pink hand. Hi. Hi. Dear Kitty Catherine, you've done nothing wrong, nothing wrong. Distant, have you started your new channel yet? What's it called? Court CV? CD? Court CD? That's a really good name, by the way. I've been listening to some of your songs that you've been writing. They're very cool. Hello, John. Hi there with a heart. I missed you, John. Hey, you're sick, Button Bella. Oh, that's no good. You know, whenever Sean calls out your name, hey, Bella, Bella, I think he's calling out for me. It's funny sometimes, especially in locals, because you're in locals a lot. And I think he's calling out Hella, but he's calling out Bella. Hella, Bella, Stella. It's funny. Yeah. Hello, Christine. Good to see you. Oh, I missed all you guys. It's only been like, what, 4 days I haven't been streaming, 4 or 5 days, something like that. But yeah, I really missed you guys. I missed doing this. Murphy, I really missed you, Murphy Turfy. Very much. And Gabby, yeah, heaps, all of you, and especially my awesome Dali, missed you lots. And yeah, we'll catch up backstage later. We'll have a good old virtual hug. Yeah, so you're honored to be mixed up with me. The pleasure is mine. And Melissa, hi, how are you? Good to see you, love. Yeah, so I don't want to go on tons about this, but everyone's been asking, how's my dad? Really shortly, in a really short sentence, he's not great. So yeah, he's every day withering away. So it's not very pleasant to watch. Let's just say that. But that's what happens. Like, we're on this earth for a bit and then we're not. That's just how things work, isn't it? But you have to look at the blessings that we've been given, and my family are blessed right now to have him in a really good place. He's in a nice room and there are people looking after him. There's a lovely palliative care doctor who has him kept as comfortable as he can be. And we have all the facilities we could possibly need around us. And yeah, he's pretty grumpy. Let's just say I've never seen him quite as grumpy as he is right now. He's usually a pretty, what do you call it, laid back kind of guy. Doesn't really generally get grumpy much, but right now he's pretty grumpy. Yeah, but we just take each moment as it comes. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's been asking. I will do a members only at some point in the next day or two to catch you guys up properly. Those who like to hear about that. It's not a very nice thing to hear about, but yeah, if you want to hear what's going on with that, do that in the next day or two. But yeah, we'll keep that one probably just us, just members. If you wanna catch up about that, I'll just do that little brief touch on that whilst people are filing in before I get into the content of today. Thank you, everybody. And hi, Josie. Good to see you. You guys have just been so supportive. And I appreciate that. Even though I've not been around in the last few days, I've just had little bits of people sending little messages and things to me, and it makes me feel, it gives me those little warm fuzzies, knowing that people just are thinking about what's happening behind the scenes, and noticing that I'm not streaming, because I usually just stream every day. It's really odd for me to just turn the streaming off, and not even just like, I've been in a chats a little bit. So that brings me to the topic of today. And thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Melissa. And I know, John, you are super duper here. Do I have a question for David? Man, I ask David questions all the time. What could I possibly ask David? David, are you in Dollywood trolling right now? No, I know he's there seeing his friends, but just a little bit, maybe. Just a tiny little bit. Just a tad. I love him. He's such a troublemaker. He's kind of like Bullwinkle. Remember, Bullwinkle was always the troublemaker. Yeah. Anyone who's old enough to know who Bullwinkle is. Yeah. Good question. I hope he is. I sent him a message. I said, "Why are you going to Dollywood?" And he goes, "Because Valhalla and Baker and Wendy." I'm like, "Not to cause trouble." Oh, funny. Anyway, yeah, no, I might not have my popcorn out. Okay, so the topic of today is maybe a tiny little bit of a controversial one, only because true crime makes itself controversial by its very nature. And the difference between true crime and, I suppose, what we call LawTube, and there's some conjecture as to who coined the term LawTube. I think Emily D. Baker might have coined it, but that's going back in time, and I'm not going to say I know anything about all that, because I was kind of watching from the bleachers, and I wasn't that involved. I was just sort of passively watching. Other people know a lot better than I do. And I ain't an expert on any of this stuff, but I'm a bit more involved these days, obviously, streaming. I'm more interested in the dynamics of it all, and the way, especially the way chat gets involved, the way people get involved, and the way they react, and the way people, their emotions get involved. And then the way it affects the actual people involved in the cases. So I like to observe all this stuff and then comment on it. And I feel like that's kind of the niche that I'm starting to find myself in as a content creator. So, as you know, I have my show on Sunday, Hearsay for Days, and that's always been the show that I'm most proud of. I like that show because I feel that it's different to anything anyone else is doing. It's the show where I take what the people are saying and I aggregate it, I curate it, and I show everybody what the people are saying about the cases, the trials that are trending right now. And it's not just what the content creators are saying, it's what the people are saying, and often in response to what the content creators are putting out there. Because when it comes down to it, people don't just respond with their untainted points of view, let's say. If you go into a chat, so if you go into EDB's chat, you're more likely to have EDB's point of view than you are if you go into, say, Brandy's chat, right? Or if you were to go into a lawyer's chat, like a defense attorney's chat, you're far more likely to have a point of view that's more defense oriented than, if you were to go into like a layperson's chat, so a true crimer's chat. And that's why I try and take different people's views who have been hanging out in chats that are very much being influenced, I suppose, in different ways. And you can tell when you see them on Twitter, for example, you can tell where they've been hanging out. And then sometimes I actually go and find these people out in the actual chats, and I get them and I get their comments. And that's why I like that show, Hearsay for Days, but I also like to comment on what the people are saying in these particular communities. And that's where it brings me to today, because I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole genre of true crime and how it might differ slightly to this other genre of, I suppose it's called LawTube, but that term has kind of gone away a little bit, and the two worlds have collided in some way. And we have people like me who's kind of in between, right? So I kind of feel a little weird when someone calls me a true crimer, because I'm like, I don't really like being called that, because, and I'll talk to you a little bit in a minute about why I don't really like being called that. But then I don't want to diss. There's some good true crime channels. There's some that are not in the group that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say I'm a law tuber either. So there's kind of a group in the middle. So we're going to talk about that in a sec. Okay, so hey, Chrissy, good to have you. And hey, Old Line Red. Hi, Hella and chat, listening in while getting dinner ready. It's so great to have you, Old Line Red. It probably was Legal Bites or Uncivil. Who made up the LawTube name? I heard recently that it was EDB, and I heard some lawyers saying that, but who knows? It doesn't really matter. That was a long time ago. LawTube adjacent. Yes. And we don't really need a name, I guess. People like me, we're kind of just in between. We're in between. Okay. So, Joe Nearman did. He first mentioned it during the beginning of Cold Rittenhouse. Oh, it was earlier than that. LawTube happened when Depp and Heard happened. Definitely people were saying LawTube back then. Definitely. Anyway, cool. All right. So that brings me to this article that was written by Will Folks from FitNews last week. And I did want to stream on this soon. So the reason why I meant to cancel this stream or postpone the stream again by another day or so, because things are happening in my life, but I didn't want to let it go forever, because this is a good article and it's timely, and I wanted to quote it, I wanted to use it, and so I had set a scheduled tweet up, and I do a lot of scheduled tweeting because I fall asleep. I sleep during your daytime, so I had the scheduled tweet ready to go, showing this article by Will Folks. And I had put it for Wednesday, and then I had put it for Thursday. It's your Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, well, it'll be your Thursday now. And unfortunately, yeah, I had meant to have it tomorrow, but anyway, it went off during the night, my last night. Regardless, I've tweeted it now, and so my stream is today. I wanted to stream about this. And it's a great article, so let's have a bit of a look at it. But I also think it's interesting that it's come from Will Folks. The reason why it's so interesting that he wrote it, that his news outlet is the one putting this out, is because his news outlet is one that started a lot of big true crime stories that we know about. One of them in particular, when I say started, blew up a lot of true crime stories, one of them being the Murdoch story. So let's have a bit of a look. And hello, Mustang McCracken. Good to have you here. What's this whoopsie? What'd you whoopsie about? Oh, yeah. Ricada especially famously hated the LawTube title, but I think he might have made a bit of cash out of it too. Okay. You read that article. I meant to read it again, and it gave me 10 minutes to have to reread it. It's a short article. It's no biggie. So we'll go through it now. Okay. And hi to Will Folks. I quite like Will Folks. He's a funny character. Alpha Fox, good to have you here. True crime. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, too many people pretend to be experts wanting to solve the puzzle. Half the time they just fuck things up. 100%. 100%. Totally agree with that. Didn't it start around Trump? Oh, goodness knows. Goodness knows. Okay, let us have a looky at this. By the way, I completely ran out of credits on FitNews and had to start paying. I suppose, fair enough. If I'm going to start, pulling up his articles and stuff all the time, I suppose I'd better pay. So, interestingly, this article has come out when they've just begun starting a new rumor mill, story around a new case, case, and that is the Micah Miller case. If you haven't been following the Micah Miller case, well, that's gone berserk in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that is the pastor's wife who committed suicide. Actually, no, not in quotes. She did commit suicide. It's been absolutely confirmed by the coroner, medical examiners, everybody involved. She did commit suicide. She went down to to a reserve, and very sadly, she shot herself. There was a 911 call. She even called 911, and she told them where she was, made sure that they could find her before she did the deed, just so her family knew where her body would be. It was very, very sad. So yeah, FitNews has been all over this story right from the start, and have been spreading all sorts of things about the pastor and how he is in some way responsible. So, but not Will Folks. One of his reporters is the one who has been spreading all the stuff. Okay, so it's called True Crime Truth. Our culture has substituted detachment from objectivity with detachment from reality. So this is May 8th. So, as the reporter who first broke the double homicide at the heart of the Murdoch murders, crime and corruption saga, and who published the first report on the apparent suicide of Micah Miller last week, I know a thing or two about covering true crime sagas. Yes, he does. Okay, so Will Folks, I didn't realize this. He takes credit for being the very first one to break the Micah Miller case, as in the first story on it. But then one of his reporters took over, like the Daily. reporting. Jen Wood, I believe, one of his other reporters, has written a bit on it as well. So it's not like he's handed all of it over to somebody else, but there is one of his roving reporters who's been like out there doing a lot of the general muckraking, reporting. Okay, so I also know a little bit about watching them spiral out of control within our increasingly unruly, uncouth, and unhinged marketplace of ideas. When it comes to true crime fandom, the quest for truth, justice, and accountability quickly devolves into factional, vitriolic bloodsport, with thumb-happy detectives, gossip vloggers, and self-styled journalists reveling in the cyber-sensationalized gore of disinformation and demonization. Right. I found that whole paragraph there to be extremely interesting and actually accurate. What do you guys think about that? Yes, the marketplace of ideas is absolutely uncouth and unhinged. It is. Think about what happens when Nancy Grace gets hold of these things, right? And sorry to bring her into it, but she is the worst, right? But you know what? She doesn't get involved in these things until local news outlets like this identify cases like this and start to do the whole, oh, there's more to it. And then they go into the Facebook pages and they start to dig up all the little bits of video and they go, oh, but look at him. He's a narcissist. He's a this, he's a that, he's an abuser, right? And then they start to like dig up all the bits and they post it all onto their websites. And then people get in groups and they become mob-like, right? And then you get your mainstream kind of journalists like your Nancy Graces, and they make it a million times worse, right? So it is a exponential effect of this whole vitriolic blood sport thing. And it's the sensationalized gore of disinformation and demonization. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. But it's interesting that he's sitting here writing all this and speaking this way when this news outfit, he's sort of also bragging about being the first to start it. Yeah, John Common. I think he's taking a hit at the vloggers. Journalism is a dying breed, and I think the true journalists have done it to themselves by abusing their influence and pitting us against each other. Oh yeah. Yeah. Which Nick hates this shit? You talking about distant? Bring back internet blood sports. Yeah, he did nail it, didn't he? All right, let's move on. So truth becomes subservient to followers. Justice becomes a hashtag. Justice becomes a hashtag. Accountability becomes a popularity contest. Oh dear. Oh dear. Justice becomes a hashtag, huh? Just a minute. Let me search something up. Anyone? Justice for Micah. Just doing a little search, guys. Let me just see. Justice for Micah on FitNews. There we go. Andy Fancher. Is that him? Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. FitNews vlogger. Yeah, okay. So he was one of the first. I'm just going to share this tab now for a sec. This guy here, Andrew Fancher. So he's the one who's been covering this case, mainly apart from Will Folks and Jen Wood on for FitNews. So see, he's a FitNews vlogger, mainstream defector, 5 times Lone Star Emmys. I don't know what that means. DAL native something or other. YouTube.com, Andrew Fancher. Okay, so if we go down here, Justice for Micah. See this? Justice for Micah. Yeah, okay. So there he is. Let's see. Can you help me find the snake?
Live with a public service announcement from the PD region of South Carolina. As the warm weather rolls in, the venomous snakes slither out. And right here in downtown Conway, I feel I just found a poisonous reptile. But I don't quite recognize its pattern, and its coloration confuses me. Do you recognize this serpent? Let me know in the comments section. Good afternoon, y'all.
What's he on about? Can you help me identify the snake? Okay, so yeah, so update. Join FitNews as Indy-Jan and I retrace the final moments of Micah Miller prior to her suicide on April 27, 2024. We'll be publishing our live feed online as well as to our social media throughout the day. Just for Micah, stay tuned. Okay. K. Let's share this tab instead. Subscribe. Yeah, okay. So he's talking about these things just becoming hashtags. Well, tell you what, they use the hashtag Justice for Micah immediately as soon as the family of Micah came out and stated publicly that the lies about Micah taking her life or it being self-inflicted, well, they were lies. And hashtag Justice for Micah, right? So that all happened within a day of her death. And yeah, her family obviously were very upset, very emotional, and they put a Facebook post out saying, yes, that this was all a lie and hashtag Justice for Micah. And a big public uprising started, and FitNews jumped on this and they used the hashtag Justice for Micah. Now, it's interesting that Will Folks comes along and says, truth becomes subservient to followers, justice becomes a hashtag, accountability becomes a popularity contest. It's not a whodunit or, God forbid, anything about those who were victimized, but rather, how does my hair look? How many followers can I get talking about it? And how can I shame, discredit, and annihilate anyone who challenges me? Interesting. 24 watching on thumbs up. People. Oh, you're sweet, Barton Bella. Yeah. So we'll talk about that later. And it's very similar. Yeah, look, I mean, we're talking about Micah right now, right? But Will is referring to a bunch of cases and he's brought them up in a way I feel that is like he's kind of saying, oh, look, I broke Murdoch and now I'm breaking Micah. And they've spoken about a bunch of different cases on this news outlet. Stephen Smith is one of them. They talk about like the Trump trials and things on here. They talk about a bunch of stuff. They like to be first in the South. I believe First in the South is not what FITS actually stands for, but it helps. But, and I'm not just having a go at FITS here. I quite like FitNews, right? But it's interesting that he's written this article because it really does sum up a lot of what's going on out there. So this whole idea of how many followers can I get talking about me and how can I shame, discredit, and annihilate anyone who challenges me. Yeah, so that is exactly what happens. If you go right now and you say anything at all about that pastor and how he might in some way not be responsible for Micah's passing, you are therefore supporting an abuser. And I've been called, and I mean in the last week or two, I've been called someone who supports an abuser on Twitter, for example, purely because I have questioned FitNews, a FitNews report where they have brought out an affidavit by his ex-wife where she has spoken about him being abusive. And I brought that out and they brought that out and gone, well, there you go, it proves it. I'm like, well, that can't be brought out in court. Like, what does that mean in regard to her death? And oh, you're supporting an abuser. And I'm like, no, what's that got to do with her death? What does it have to do with her death? Show me. Like, what does it have to do with her death? It's from 2017. So it's an affidavit from 2017. Were any charges laid? What happened? So I get this vitriol from people because I question facts. Oh, you're supporting an abuser. Well, okay, fine. And then people look at my profile and they go, oh, yeah, you look like the kind of person who would support a murderer. Well, okay, yeah, I support Zachariah Anderson. And he's convicted of murder. So, yeah, I support him. Yep. Oh, dear. The whole untethering from objectivity we see in these cases is understandable. And in fairness, it's not always as malevolent as it may seem. After all, the linchpin of the true crime genre is that the world needs heroes and villains. We need mystery, we need drama, we need titillation, we need substance and significance, we need emotional connections. We need to be shocked, appalled, obsessed, entertained, and distracted. Yeah, that's true, right? So that's what this is about. True crime is basically just what mystery novels used to be, what like murder novels used to be for people. Even what mystery series and things like that are on Netflix, except it's better because it's happening now and it keeps evolving right now in front of our eyes. So people get obsessed with it because it's real, like it's new. And I've even seen people on these true crime groups, especially on Facebook. Oh my God, the Facebook ones, they're so bad, right? They get on there and they're like, oh, new tea today. When they hear that something new has happened, right? When they hear that someone has done something bad, right? Or someone has gotten on some live stream and chucked a big mental. They've let out some bit of news, some bit of gossip, something about their private life, which makes them look guilty, right? And so people are like, oh, new tea, fantastic. Oh, he's so vile. He's so disgusting. Right? So they love that stuff. They just love it. But they forget that this is people's real life. Right? So this is really people's real life. Yeah, justice. Justice. Exactly. Hello, Emu Warrior. Good to have you. This case doesn't pass the pub test. Lots to come out. Oh, yeah. Totally. Totally, Emu Warrior. Oh, yeah. The hell stuff's ridiculous. Hale stuff is just stupid. Flat out stupid. And I've got no problem saying that. I'm not scared of anyone. Them. Yeah, I stopped watching a bunch of people because of the Hales, and now none of them get recommended to me. I have to manually dig through subs to see if they're streaming. Yeah, problem is, yeah, if you go the other way around and you actually do dig through to see them, then they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Yeah. Distant. Because they're either afraid of that fat shit Jeremy or they're trying to bump their numbers. Of course, some of them get a free laptop too. Oh dear. Okay. Synaptic stimulations aside, oh, very good wording, Will. We also need to be affirmed, to be fundamentally reminded that on our very worst day, we could never be as bad as the evil, insane people we are feverishly texting or tweeting about. Ah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, so these people that we're saying are so evil. Okay, so let's talk about Alex Murdoch for a minute because we all know who he is. We all know who he is. People still love to talk about how evil Alex Murdoch is. And I know probably in our little world here, we don't talk that much about how evil Alex Murdoch is because probably a lot of people who watch this channel and the channels that sort of circle around this channel probably think, yeah, he's not the greatest dude. He ripped off a lot of people. But we probably think he didn't get that good of a deal when it comes to his trial, right? But there are still thousands upon tens of hundreds of thousands of people who think he flat out blew his son's brains out and his wife too. Boom, boom. Just like Crichton would have said, bang, 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 right? People hate his guts. And he's so vile. He's so evil. He's such a liar. He's such a disgusting stain on humanity, right? And also, his lawyers, same deal. They are like Poot and Poot and Jimbo, Griff, whatever. They love to say how disgusting they are and how do they sleep at night and la la la. So they say all this stuff and then they goad each other on and they make memes and they comfort themselves with this whole idea that no matter what sin that they ever commit in their day-to-day lives, it can never be as bad as what Alex Murdoch did, right? And I don't mean to get religious, but it's kind of like sin. It's kind of like this this taint on their heart, I like using the word taint. I can't possibly be as bad as this person. And they try and think about all the things that they've ever done. Never can I be as bad as this person. So therefore it's okay for me to talk bad of this person. And they're this evil being that's locked up over there and they need to be locked up over there. They can't ever be let out. They're gross. And it's okay for me to talk about them like that. They don't want to think about the fact that Alex Murdoch has a son who never did anything wrong, Buster. They don't want to think about the fact that Alex Murdoch, yeah, he's a human being like everybody else. He has human frailties. He has other family who are suffering. No, he doesn't deserve any sort of sympathy whatsoever. No. That is why true crime sells, because for as long as we're engaged in it, all of us, myself included, that's Will, get to pretend we're better than we really are. We get to be validated. On some level, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Okay. Lately, though, our culture has substituted detachment from objectivity with detachment from reality. We become so invested in these stories, our need for validation becomes so all-consuming that we lose all sense of perspective and propriety. Stories become less about facts, evidence, testimony, and truth, and more about feelings and teams. That's important. And as mentioned about obtaining affirmation vis-a-vis our role in the process. We become invested, and when we become invested, we become protective of certain outcomes, our preferred outcomes to be precise. Okay, so that made me think about what's happening like right now, for example. Now, he's not talking about any case that's going on currently, but it did make me think about the Karen Read case. Because whilst I've got a lot going on in my own life right now, I have been watching Karen Read, trying to watch Karen Read, and often doing it on catch-up mode. And goodness me, Karen Read's about teams, isn't it? It's been about teams for a while. It's been about teams long before the trial started. Long before the trial started. And when I say it's about teams, it's so difficult to have any opinion about any tiny little aspect of this case without somebody calling you out and saying, hey, are you saying that it's not a cover-up? It's like, no, I'm just asking a question. And then even if you speak anything at all, because at the moment, okay, let's just put it this way. At the moment, enough has come out in that trial for the great majority of people to be pretty convinced it's a cover-up, right? Pretty convinced it's a cover-up. And fair, people are acting dodgerama, all right? That's fine. So withholding judgment right now is pretty tricky. Like Brandy actually came out on Twitter yesterday and said that she's still withholding judgment, and so, fuck you all, basically. If you want to hate on me because I haven't made my mind up yet, you can unfollow me. You can just stop it. Leave me alone. And I thought that was kind of brave of her, to be honest. And I didn't really want to say it on Twitter, but I'll say it here now. And that is that I feel like as a creator, she's really grown, because I feel like in the past, she would have made a judgment really, really quickly. She would have gone either just guilty or not or whatever really fast. But in this instance, she's gone, no, I do want to hear the rest. There's 6 weeks of this. But for now, these facts are pointing towards this for me. But I still want to hear the rest of it. And I'm not being bullied. Fuck you all. I don't think she said fuck you all. I don't think that's really her vocabulary. But but yeah, I mean, myself, I err towards innocence of the defendant for as long as possible. Yeah, she's done a lot of research, Cini. And again, I just feel like she's grown an awful lot. I really do. And to stand her ground like that, I don't see that as the Brandy I used to notice. I used to notice her be very much pro-state and guilty usually. And maybe I misjudged her, but I feel like that was the Brandy I used to notice. Whereas now she is much more strong-minded and to withhold judgment in the face of so much pressure to just go with the mentality of the mob. That takes a lot of courage. And anyway, so I digress. The Karen Read case right now has a lot of pressure from a lot of people to pick a team. Pick a team. And if you don't pick a team, you're a fool. You're evil. You are supporting cop killers, or you are supporting a murderer, or you're this or you're that. What's this distant? She learned a lot about how judges and prosecution work. Well, you know what? If you watch enough of these things and you pay attention and you see injustices happen, eventually you learn. Eventually you learn. What's this, Alpha? Now she's just some brandy that I used to. You're cute. I love you. Yeah, you learn, right? So once you get invested in a case and you see cover-ups happen, you see the state absolutely do their darndest to put someone away who has absolutely not done what they're saying that this person did, right? And it's so obvious, and yet they just lie. When they just flat out lie to the jury, when they just bring in witness after witness after witness who are lying, and they are just speaking what that prosecutor has told them to speak over and over. You see it, and then you know the jury's just been lied to. You just know. And then you watch the jury walk out, and then you see the arguments happen in front of the judge that are not being seen by the jury. In this case, we can't even see all that stuff. A little bit, but not as much as in some other cases. You see all this stuff, and then you hear that guilty verdict, and your heart just sinks. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm thinking of Zachariah Anderson now, but also in Murdoch as well. But Zach, oh my God. When that happened to Zach, just a sick feeling. That sick feeling. And when you see this happen a few times, and we've seen it happen a few times, guys. Come on, we've all seen it happen a few times. When you've seen it happen, you realize that the state is not always our friend. You start to really question what's going on. And I think Brandy started to actually really question, like, the fact that they don't always have the right guy. They don't always have the right defendant. They're not always telling the truth. They're not always on our side. Cover-ups happen. Cover-ups really do happen. And she's seeing this now, where a lot of people are seeing this now. And if one good thing comes out of the Karen Read case, I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that these cover-ups can happen. Anyway, I got off track there. If you watch her coverage of the Travis Rudolph trial, she really saw how the state can go full speed on clear case of self-defense. A lot of people saw that then too, yes, but it didn't change attitudes as much as I would have hoped that it would have, that Travis Rudolph one. Maybe the reason the Travis Rudolph trial didn't change attitudes as much as I would have hoped was because that trial seemed almost like a farce. Like, that was a bit funny. Like, it was like, is this even real? Like, there was too many funny characters, and everyone got sort of carried away with the theater of it, and just joking around, and is this even real? And then he got acquitted, and everyone kind of was happy about it, and it was done, whereas this one's just makes you angry. This one's just, it's serious. It really is serious. So I feel like this particular trial, the Karen Read trial, this one's waking a lot of people up. And I mean, not just YouTube creators who used to be very pro-state, used to really believe everything that they were told right from the beginning. That person sitting over there in the defendant's chair, they start off more with the presumption of guilt than the presumption of innocence. But also, chat, I think it's really starting to wake people up to the idea that not only is that person should be presumed innocent, but it's possible that they're not the right person, that they got the wrong guy. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, Shamari, good to have you. You got regifted a membership. Yay! What woman was insane? Was it Dominique? A lot of them are still pro-state. They just know their audience. Yeah. Look, nothing. It's not going to change drastically. But things like the Karen Reid case really do open your eyes. And I tell you what, something, Alpha Fox, Adam, I went and looked in the Court TV chat the other day, and I was shocked. The chat there was so, this is a cover-up, this is wrong, this is like, it was almost 100%. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was just no one in there who was pro-state at this point. At this point in the Court TV chat, they were all saying that the state witnesses were lying. I was really surprised. Anyway, let's move on with this. We become invested, and we become protective of certain outcomes, our preferred outcomes, to be precise. I always remember Andrew, when Andrew comes on this stream, Andrew Brunker, he says this a lot. People don't like saying they're wrong. People don't like changing their mind. When they've said out loud what they think the outcome should be, people hate having to go, yeah, no, I've changed my mind now. It's like a hurt to their ego. I was wrong. I've changed my mind. That hurts to have to say that. So therefore, it's better to just not come to a conclusion. You don't have to. There's nothing wrong with withholding judgment. Andrew doesn't like to, I don't know what my dog is barking at. Andrew doesn't like to make a judgment on a case until he's seen the entire testimony, all of the trial. He doesn't like to comment on it. And fair enough too. That's why I really quite respect what Brandy just said. She wants to see till the end. That's fair. Myself, I like to have a bit of less ego about like not changing my mind. Like if I'm happy to change my mind, but I also like to reserve judgment. So yeah, I'm fine to say I was wrong. I'm fine to say I've changed my mind. Like people will go to me, like, you were wrong. You changed your mind. You said there's something else last week. I'm like, yeah, cool. I changed my mind. It's fine. But I get it. People don't like to be seen to change teams. They don't like to be seen to have changed their mind. That's a normal human thing. Murph Turf, you and I are on the same page with this one. It is the best barometer of what the public's going to do. Law and Crime and Court TV chats usually get the verdict right. They usually have exactly what that jury's going to do. I hate to say it, because so often it's guilty when it shouldn't be, but they get it right. They're a really good cross-section of society. They're a really good cross-section. They don't pay much attention to, when I say they don't pay much attention, they don't listen that hard to like the minutia of the facts. They are emotional. They are judgmental. They are the kind of people there are people in there who make assumptions based on their human experiences, their own contextual human experiences. There's always going to be people in there like that, but they are balanced out by people who are more objective. That's what's going to be in a jury. But there's so many of them. Like there's tens of thousands of people in that chat. And when they do their poll, it's a big enough cross-section to give you a really good idea of what's going to happen. of what's going to happen. So when we get to that verdict watch and they do their poll, that's it. Like I've rarely seen it not reflect the verdict. What's one heck of a 180, Benjamin Gray. I hope they get it. Imagine if they didn't. Imagine if they did. I was just thinking about this yesterday. Imagine if she gets found guilty. It's possible. I've seen people convicted on far less than this, right, Josie? Right, Josie? Imagine. Imagine. I thought BK was guilty with the probable cause affidavit, David. Now with the information the defense is coming out with, I'm back at innocent. Oh man, that probable cause affidavit. You know what? They've just put out a statement, or was it a response saying that the PCA is irrelevant. That's the state. It should be considered irrelevant. I'm going to be doing a fair bit of streaming on Brian Koberger over the next few weeks. There's two open hearings. There's one on the 23rd with a defense witness. I'm hoping it's Cy Ray. And there is a full day hearing on the 30th. And the only reason those two hearings are open is because the defense has argued for that to be the case. The state wanted them to be closed from now on. Why do you think they wanted them to be closed from now on? Because things aren't going their way. Things aren't going their way. Yeah. The defendant is always guilty to the defendant. To the defendant is innocent. My comment was out of context once you move on up. Okay. What did you say, Barton Bella? Sean nailed it last night. He said people go in saying they are impartial, but that's not how it's supposed to be. You're commanded to go in believing the defendant is in fact innocent. 100%. You are so right, Barton Bella, and Sean is so right. Yes, you're not supposed to be impartial. You're supposed to be leaning towards the defense. That's it. You're supposed to be leaning well and truly towards the defense. You're supposed to be thinking, that guy over there is innocent, or that lady over there, she is innocent. You need to prove to me that she's guilty, and you need to not just prove it to me, you need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt to me, and that is a lot. That's a lot. So do your best, dudes. Come on, throw it at me. 100%. That is so right. Impartial, not enough. Not enough. Yeah. What's this? It's like guessing how many marbles are in a jar. An average of all the guesses is usually correct. Okay, let's move on with this. And what about those who disagree with us or prove us wrong? Well, they become every bit as contemptible and villainous as the depraved characters at the center of these stories. Yeah. Yep. So those of you who witnessed my little foray into Facebook group making a week or two ago would have seen what happened. And it wasn't my finest moment, maybe. Yeah. So I was called all the names. Okay. So silly me went and chose probably the wrong case to start a Facebook group. And this was not long after the tragic passing of Micah Miller. I started a Facebook group called Justice for JP Miller, who is the pastor husband of Micah Miller. And then I went to sleep. This is on Facebook, by the way. I made the group and I went to sleep. And I really didn't say anything much more. I just introduced myself. Hey, I'm an Australian and I'm a YouTube creator, and I'm doing a stream in the morning, by the way. We can talk about it then. And then a bunch of Justice for Micah Miller people came along and called me all the names. And then they got into my chat and called me all the names. Oh, and yeah, by the way, the other thing that happened was someone tried to befriend me in my private messages and talked me into becoming an administrator, which I thought was kind of funny. And so I let her do it for science. And she took over the group. And yeah, if you want to go watch the stream back, it was kind of amusing. Very amusing, actually. But I say it was very amusing. It was interesting. It was an interesting thing that happened. But the thing about it was, the people who were having a go at me about it, they had jumped onto this whole idea of justice for my Camilla because they had decided already that her husband caused her death and that he was this vile, terrible character who was abusive, and he drove her to her demise. At the time, the medical examiner's report hadn't come back. Well, it was about to come in, and actually came in whilst we were on stream. We actually showed it on stream, and it said that she did pass, very sadly, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They accused Dali and I of laughing about the case, of being insensitive to the case, and that wasn't it at all. We were it was about the fact that they were very, very clearly judging us for making a group which just was saying that he was presumed innocent, that he hadn't actually done anything that we know of, that justice is yet to be served. We don't know, right? And these people were picketing outside of his house and his place of work, calling him all these names, etc., and actually accusing him of abuse and all sorts of things. And we didn't know. No one really knew anything about the case yet. There are always two sides to every story, but they'd only heard one. There was only one side that was being heard, and it was not okay to talk about the other side at all. And that was the point, that it's not okay to talk about the other side. And that really, really bothered me, that it's not, you can't be impartial. You can't choose a side. You can't not choose a side. There can't be any middle ground. And I admitted afterwards, I probably chose the wrong name. It probably should have just been the Micah Miller case. And I did reclaim the group afterwards, and I changed the name of the group to the Micah Miller case, and I haven't streamed on it since. I think it's just all too fresh and raw, and I didn't like where the whole case was going. And I did speak privately to one or two people who were in the group who actually were close to the case, and I put them in touch with Crime and Cask, who's close by in the South Carolina area, and he's able to put them in touch with some people who are sensitive to the issues. So they were actually really nice. But the people who were really having a go at me, they didn't know anything about it. They're just jumping on the train, on the vitriol train. And that's my point. That is my point. Proven. Oh, snap. Yep. Hey, Jody Arias. How are you? How are your holes going? How are your holes going, Jody Arias? I would never have been found innocent if lordship existed when my trial happened. Oh, you would have been found innocent. Yeah, you would have. They would have all been behind you, literally. Thank you for the super chat and thank you for the gift of membership. Who got it? Cowpoke! Yay! That's awesome. That is awesome. Your holes are empty. John, whose holes are empty? You like to hear all different sides and then form an opinion. And that's why we love you, Shel Marie. That's why you're part of our family. That's why you're part of our family. Most neurotypical people can't understand how someone's brain convinces them to end things unless something bad has happened. Yeah, and that's the thing. What's come out since all of this is that the lovely Micah, who's just the most beautiful person, oh my goodness, such a terrible loss. She was extremely mentally ill. That's what the medical records show anyway. It's just so sad. The whole thing's so sad. Welcome, Cowpoke. You have a membership. You should click through and join our Discord. We have lots of fun there. It's underneath the membership tab, the link. Yeah, there's most definitely two sides to this, and both sides are really, really sad. Both sides are really, really sad. And I'm not saying at all that the pastor JP is going to win any humanitarian awards. He is not. He's also got his own problems. I tell you what, he's got his own problems. And actually, John wrote a really good thing about this on the Discord. He wrote a good synopsis on this. But yeah, I don't really feel much like streaming about this anymore for the time being. I just feel like it's all a bit nasty. The whole thing's a bit nasty. Hello, David. How's your little holiday going over there? Has your best friend popped up? Has your mate popped up? Yeah. Mr. God of Law, how's God going? We were just talking about you earlier and just wondering, how's Dollywood and all your friends, and whether or not your best friend may have turned up to say hello. If he's there, say hi from us. Give him a big, slap on the ass. Tell him we love him. Judge Beverly has my back, but I still take it in the crap. Oops. We're talking about the difference between true crime and, well, we're not really talking about LawTube so much. We're talking more about true crime, and we're talking about what about how stories get out of control and how people are sort of made to feel like they have to pick a team. And this article by Will Folks on FitNews last week, and he was referring to how he was the first to break the stories of like Murdoch murders, and now the Micah Miller story. And yes, we saw you giving your friend a kiss on the mouth there. That was not gay at all. And then we look at some other things, like, for example, the Karen Reid trial right now, where it's pretty much impossible to be out there and just asking questions without being accused of not being on the right team. So yeah, if I were to ask a question about whether one of the Alberts, for example, was telling, maybe one of the Alberts said something that exonerated one of them. Oh, but are you defending them? You know that they're in on this, right? Like, you're not saying that Karen's actually guilty, are you? That's so terrible. Like, people are very quick to sort of jump on everything that you say and accuse you of not being on the right team. And this has been going on since long before the trial started, but since the trials really ramped up and it's become super clear that, yeah, everyone's lying, basically. Since it's become really, really clear, the tribal nature of the teams and the opinions has really ramped up. We saw it with the Crumbly trial. We saw it with Murdoch. We see it especially when trials are long and emotional, and there's a really clear divide between the two sides. People start watching it and get really invested in it. And then what happens is, not only do people get really invested in the outcome, they start to get angry. And they don't get angry just about the topics, they get angry at each other. You watch, guys. If it's not happening already, it will happen soon. But friendships will break up. There will be people who used to be good chat mates, and they will have little Barneys over, so and so said this and they didn't mean that, and they have these arguments in chats and they end up blocking one another. It happens. I saw it happen over Crumblies just a few weeks ago, and it's going to happen over this one too. It'll happen. Sounds like trolling the two sides could be fun. Obviously, I'm way too kind to do a thing like that. Oh yeah, Mads, you'd never do that. Yeah. What do you hate, Ghost 3? What did Ghost 3 say? Court TV uploaded a clip of Karen getting upset with her lawyer, so there are most definitely two sides. Oh yeah, and it's interesting. Like with Court TV, they have, what's her name, Julie Grant. Julie Grant. I wonder if Julie Grant actually knows what she's saying, or whether someone's just putting stuff up on an auto cue for her, because seriously, she's so out of touch with the general opinion. Her and Coffin Duffer are singing the same tune, and both of them are so unpopular with general point of view. They both are like, oh, Karen Reid's so guilty. Karen Reid this, Karen Reid that. And yet, have a look at your chat, people. Like, have a look at your comments. People are like, you guys are so wrong. Where are you getting this stuff from? Are you watching the same trial? It's very interesting. It's like, are you writing this stuff yourself? It's very strange. I disagree with Sean most every day. He's still my dude. Oh yeah, Sean's fantastic like that. But so he should be. Like any good creator or just normal person should be that way. Guys, excuse me for a second. I have to take a phone call. Okay, guys. Unfortunately, I've just had some news, and I'm gonna have to end the stream and get going. So I'm sorry about that. Oops. Sorry about that. Want me on screen to dance? Yeah, you can if you like. I think I've just had some bad news, guys. So I love you all. Yeah. Have a great day.